Hi guys, CJ here, Dirty Geek Squad. I'm doing our first actual in-person interview.
I'm so sorry, it's me.
No, I am joined today by like one of my favorite people of all time. This is Sammy.
Hi.
Um, Sammy is part of the LGBTQP plus community. I, I'm sorry, I always stumble on the letters.
It's becoming a long acronym. You're good.
Okay. Thank you. So I've known Sammy for what, 3 years now, right?
About 3 years, yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I met Sammy through work. We worked together for a while. And honestly, before I met Sammy, I was pretty much the way most straight people are with gay people. Well, the queer community. Um, where it was like I was cool with them. But my only experiences were like the girls I hooked up with that were bisexual, or the guys that I would try to befriend, and all they would do is ask me for inappropriate pictures, kind of like how you see women all the time, like saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, this guy asked me or sent me this picture or asked me for this." Gay guys do it too. Surprising. They're still, yeah, one of us, I guess, on the inside.
Yeah.
They're perverts. Not all of them, not all of them, just the ones that seem to meet me. But yeah, so that was my whole experience, and then I got to meet Sammy, and we started to become friends. We got to know each other a little bit, and then something actually happened at work that actually brought the entire division of all of us kind of together.
Mhm.
I think that event kind of made the entire group of us singled out from the rest of the company we worked at.
Oh yeah.
And brought us closer. Because I feel like for a while we had like our own clique of like, your section,
Yeah.
but you worked so closely to my section of the store.
Exactly.
That we were just all a knit community.
So you want to go ahead and you want to just talk about that event?
Oh yeah, we can get that through.
All right.
So that it didn't start with you though.
It didn't, but with my coworker in the subsection of the department that I was in versus where he was, it started with our coworker. And from what I recall, she was helping an elderly gentleman with something because we helped out his department quite often. And both she and I were both wearing a company approved pin that was the rainbow. And he was like, "Well, what is that?" And she told him, "Oh, it's for Pride." And he told her that he was disgusted by it. We shouldn't be able to wear things like that. Well, from what I had heard within that next hour was that he went to our store manager and complained. And that store manager turned right around to my coworker and said, "You can't wear that." To which again got to our whole section of department of, "Hey, you might have to take that pin off because the store manager said, no, you can't have it."
This is putting it all politely. From my understanding, the store manager was as rude as you can be to an employee about taking off something that was, one, approved by an entire company. This is a giant corporation, mind you, who said, yes, we support this, we are backing this.
It was sold by the company.
Yeah. And she completely broke protocol and went after one of our employees. Instead of having their back and being like, no, this is my employee, my company supports this, she turned around and just laid into our past coworker.
So at that point, the manager of my department, because
Anthony, shout out. I love you, Anthony. I'm always going to shout out Anthony. I love that man.
Well, at that time, it was actually Ed. But Anthony was actually there that day
He wasn't the manager?
He had already gone on to, but it was Ed that was the department manager.
Anthony had already gone to corporate.
Yes. But
Ed, I still love you too, though.
Ed was there. Anthony was actually there doing some work, which is funny enough that day. So our department had 3 people, not including the managers, and his had a few more than us. I was livid. Like, they had to calm me down of like, go to lunch,
amazing to see Sammy
go calm down, because I wanted to rip into this manager. Everyone else, as I heard after lunch when I went, was also equally It was great. Like Anthony, like you said, it was already corporate. He's like, if I got to go up with this, I will immediately have names and go up.
It's true.
And it was, again, right after I canceled, maybe like an hour and a half after this incident happened. Again, I never directly spoke with the store manager, but all of a sudden I heard of, oh no, she changed her mind. You can wear it. It's okay.
Yep, because you don't mess with corporate, especially if you're gonna lose your job. So as a big fu, my entire department, which was, as Sammy pointed out, very closely related to their department, Anthony was kind enough to order all of us Pride pins. Actually, do I have mine with me? Oh, I don't have mine with me. I have a different one that Sammy gave me. See this one right here? Remember when you gave me this?
Yeah.
Forever ago?
I think that was actually Tina.
Tina did this?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought you picked them all up.
Mm-mm.
Tina handed all these out?
I picked up some different Pride ones and given out some of the company ones too, but Anthony was the big one that really pushed a lot of that.
Yeah, that was amazing. Getting the rainbow pin for all of us. I don't ever remember that customer ever coming back and complaining again, but we were waiting. And the whole, like I said, the whole department and their department, woo, we all
Which
wore
is
the
funny
pins.
because I've never had any other complaint about wearing it because I wear a Pride. Mine was personally gifted by Anthony before the whole thing had started, and I've got nothing but compliments about it. So it's really weird that one old man, one old cis white man complained and suddenly everyone lost their shit.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's a biggie for you. What are you gonna do? By the way, let's try to get into this interview. So, Sammy, you're part of the community.
Yes.
First, I would like to ask, what are you still going by them and their as your correct pronoun, or is it different now?
So I have two sets. I go by they, them, their in public when I talk with other people because it's commonly used as the third person pronoun, and it's just easier for people to get by. Online, I also like EM error, which is derived from it because it's shorter to write, it's simpler. For example, like, oh, look at my coworker over there. E is helping that customer, things like that, same format. So those are the two I primarily use.
I know you had a pin with one of them, right?
I have for my department now. I won't mention what all, but the color is orange. So I have one I wear that says, "Hi, my name is Sam. My pronouns are they, them," and I'm promptly ignored every time. But I try.
I remember first finding out about their pronouns, and it was. I actually mentioned this in the last video. It was the hardest thing for me. I am not going to sit here and pretend like, yeah, I got it right away.
Yeah.
No, it was super hard for me. And as I said yesterday, the way I always got around it, especially if I felt myself saying the wrong thing, I would just say Sammy.
Yeah.
That was the easiest way for me as, a straight white dude who didn't really know the difference between anything. If I can't say the right thing, if I say their name, then I'm correct all the time.
Right. But thankfully, English is awkward like that, where if you were to say again, like, oh, there's CJ. CJ is doing this. That belongs to CJ. It gets, but obviously when you're still learning it, that's not a bad method. Heck, there's plenty of, they call neo-pronouns in the community that I'm not familiar with, like they and fair, E and M. There's also A and M. There's plenty that I don't know personally that I try to study on my own, just, again, from your perspective of how do I use these. Okay. So I get it.
Okay. And don't mind all the loud noise around us. And I actually brought Sam out here to have a meal with me. I figured, since I'm forcing them to have an interview with me, I might as well get some dinner. So we got your pronouns. Mm-hmm. Hopefully everyone in the comments remembers. If there's any jerks that are just being jerks, don't mind them. Now, what in the community, there's all these abbreviations, and I've seen one string of them one time. It was like this long, and there's just so many letters.
LGBTQIAPPQ, something like that is the longest I've ever seen, which would be...
I saw one with 2 A's in it. One of the A's was ally, which is still just a straight person.
Don't get me on the ally. I love allies. Do not get me wrong.
No,
But
but
the
I was
whole
like, why is this like such a thing where even like now straight people are part of the community?
it's in the
Like,
acronym of like, no, the A is not for allies. But yeah, it was like lesbian, gay, bi, trans, questioning, queer, intersex, pansexual, asexual, agender, and it's the abbreviation something that's always going to be of concern in the community because like how long is too long? How inclusive can you be? In fact, a couple of different YouTubers I watch have been using GRSM for gender, romantic, sexual minorities to kind of gather that all in.
okay,
And then I personally also use the queer community, but that can get
that's kind of old though. So that's been around. Um, I remember the queer community from like the late '90s.
yeah.
So it's kind of like so you kind of get the idea of it's all gathered in. I don't know if that's offensive. I meant to ask you that. Is that offensive to
So
people?
it depends. There's a vocal minority that says no, it's a slur. Don't call people that. And online, if you're in discourse and whatnot, typically it's respectful. Like okay, just don't call someone. But historically, it's been a reclaimed word, at least in the U.S. since the early 19th century. That it's a term that people have used for themselves, like gay, like sorry, I don't know if you want swearing or pseudo swears.
Oh, I don't. This is you. This is the way you talk. This is how you think.
Right.
I want all of it.
Well, I'm afraid some people will find those offensive because they are a little more outdated because some people do get offended.
Of course.
But a lot of people have reclaimed them too. And I tried the side with history. Like there's queer studies. There's
That's a class. That's
yeah,
an
that's
actual
an
class.
academic discourse. Yeah. So I personally use queer when I don't want to go through all the different identities. And I respect that some people are uncomfortable with it. That's absolutely fine. It's one of the words I use, so that's just another option.
Now, I'm not sure if you label yourself as one of these letters in the acronym, but if you were to say, what would you consider yourself? If you're not, even if you have to pick multiple
Yeah.
of them or whatever.
Again, queer, like I said, the blanket term. If we're going, when I use the acronym, my basic one is LGBTQIA plus, and I just leave it at that. So I guess for that, T for transgender, because a lot of people take the notion that they mean the binary transgender folks, which is male and female. No, the whole term transgender can mean everyone, including non-binary folks, which I do as well. Um, there's the A, which can several different terms, but more likely to not, you'll hear asexual is the first one mentioned. So I also am ace. And then also a gender, which means a couple different ones. Some people take it as a neutral, non binary gender. I personally take it as the lack of a gendered feeling or identity.
So, if I was to simplify it, and I'm not trying to like
No.
shit on anything that, because I kind of gathered what you were saying. If I was to simplify it, you kind of just, because I've interviewed a lesbian and a pansexual so far,
Yeah.
right? And now the way you're describing yourself, I feel like that's even more closely saying I'm not any of these. I am just a human. Because like I was feeling that way with the pansexual.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like, because you don't see gender.
Yeah.
You're just attracted to someone. But you're like, hey, I don't, I'm just a person.
It's funny you mention it, and I'll get back to the pansexual point. But yeah, if you want to narrow it down, that I don't experience gender, I don't, they're important to me because I take a lot of serious interest and pride in the pride community and the queer community. But yeah, it's not having that experience, but yet I love researching it because I don't know what it is, but it affects, everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's, hey, I'm just a human that just wants to be treated with dignity.
Yeah, just as another
insane.
person. Like, well, I feel like that was right but wrong at the same time. What I just said.
No, it was a lot of terms to just throw out. I understand.
No, like, yeah. So you just want to be treated good. You just want to be treated with respect, and like you're not gonna sit here and disrespect anyone.
Yeah.
You're just gonna treat people as people, and you expect to be treated the same.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Like what agender really means, that it's a non-binary term, and for anyone that's not familiar, non-binary is someone that falls outside of the spectrum of purely male and purely female, as described by Western society, if you will. It can be a term on its own, like someone is non-binary, or as an umbrella term, oh, they are gender fluid or agender, they're under the non-binary umbrella. Um, what that means for me as someone who's agender and non-binary is when you talk about me, I would prefer pronouns we talk about they, them, not instantly assuming that I'll take to certain terms like, oh, sir, oh, you're a nice lady, certain things like that, because they're heavily gendered with certain expectations that I don't personally have.
Now, when someone says something, especially if they don't know you, if they're just a stranger, because you work with the community as a whole,
Yeah.
If they're trying to be polite, just a random stranger saying thank you to you,
Yeah.
Especially here in the South, it's real big in the South to always say sir or ma'am
Yeah.
or hun or any of these things, right? Because it's a Southern thing. We were raised like that's polite. That's how you do these things. Now, do you take super offense to when someone's just being polite, saying thank you, sir, or thank you, ma'am?
Depends on context, mood, things like that, and of course, everyone's different. If it's a complete stranger, I may not even see him again, or for weeks if it's a customer, things like that. And unless I'm in a particularly foul mood, I'll usually just brush off of, okay, they're just being polite. That's just the culture we're in. If it's somebody I know that should know better and they continually misgender me, I might look at them like, come on now, are you really using this word? And they'll usually realize it and backtrack. No one's really done it to the point of trying to offend me, so it's never really become an issue. Just more so polite, could you not use that term or word, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
And then there's a bunch of discourse online. Of course, I'll keep referring to online. That's just one of my biggest factor of community is for me.
It's hard to get it around here, unless you go to Orlando or something.
Trying to come up with new language to neutral language, especially like right now, non-binary. There's a term called NB, which is a shortening of the letters NB that you can call someone who is non-binary. Trying to find that gender neutral for sir and ma'am that sounds natural
and polite and
has
Southern.
Been difficult because, like you said, it's first of all it's so culturally ingrained, and then getting a bunch of people to agree upon it.
I do it all the time still. No matter where I'm at, I'll be like, thank you, hon, or thank you, sir. Or,
I've gotten into a habit of calling everyone dear because I don't want to be like, oh, here you go, sir, here you go, ma'am. Like, here you go, dear, because there's that awkward pause that you want to be polite, but you don't want to use that gender term.
That's actually really good. I might start using dear.
I've heard others use like friend or fine customer or, whatever the context, of course.
I don't... See, I've heard the friend thing before. It's very Canadian. It's very Canadian. But at the same time, there's so many people in this world. I'm really trying to be more inclusive to strangers and people. And, as anyone who watches YouTube so far knows, I can't stop messing with my hair. I always mess with my hair for some reason. Nervous to Twitch, I guess. Yum, 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 yum. What was I saying?
As you've seen on YouTube, I think you're trying to be more inclusive.
Oh yes, I can't get behind calling everyone friend because I still have a lot in me that I've grown to dislike so many people that have just stereotyped me or have just treated me badly without even knowing who I am.
Yeah.
That when I was younger, I lashed out a lot. Did a lot of terrible things. I became what basically everyone says, oh, you're going to be this or you're going to be that. I did become that eventually. And even still to this day, it's like super petty, but it's like inside of me somewhere that I'm trying to get rid of. But my last relationship, after you feel, even if they're not specifically calling you out, after you feel like you've been put down so much, you kind of want to lash out. And after, X amount of time, I have that petty thing in me that I'm trying to get rid of, that no matter for the life of me, I get better and better, but it's still there.
Yeah.
So, that's something I'm working on. But that's why I can't just call random people's friend.
No, of course.
So I can understand where you're coming from with that, though.
Well, again, my context is it's usually in customer service, just to avoid using that gender term. I don't usually talk to a lot of people, but it's usually I just drop the sirs and ma'ams. But again, we're kind of younger, so while we still have that cultural thing with us, we're easier than like someone who's older who's like, you didn't, call me ma'am, or oh, excuse me, young lady, young sir.
Oh, I used to get when I worked in the food restaurant business. I worked at Boston Market.
Okay.
I have a bad habit, especially being from the South. I have a lot of words like y'all and hey guys.
Yeah.
Just general umbrella terms that we use or that I was raised using. Excuse me. And it's I got so much crap. Like there was a group of ladies, not so much elderly.
Older.
They'd just be older than me. They'd be like late 30s up to like 60s.
Okay.
It's happened many times. I'm like, hey guys, what would you like to eat today? Just trying to be polite and serve them. And they would always come at me like, did you just call us men? Like, whoa, sorry y'all. Like,
Exactly.
what do you want me to say? My bad. Like,
And I guess you will find people that are that sensitive. Guys, for me, again, culturally, it's just a neutral term of, hey guys, how's it going?
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't get it. Things mess with my brain, especially like I'm programmed like this is polite, this is polite, this is polite, and now I went through the first 20 years basically in my life like that is it.
Yeah. No, like
I'm trying to change everything.
If you want me to go into it later, I can tell you the whole gender journey thing, if you will. But again, it was like 23 years of just binary thinking, binary thought. I had to find the language before I could even fathom I could be something outside of. So I get it totally when people are first confused or even just trying to rewire their brain to try to be more inclusive.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm also the unfortunate of being an English major. So, English major and studying the queer community, I'm hypersensitive to language, not even just queer terms or, exclusive, inclusive. Just, I'll hear certain things and go, wait a minute, that's not right. And of course, I have to tell the English major to shut up.
Really hate Southern folk, huh?
No, again, I grew up around here, so I'm not that petty.
Now, you said you wanted to talk something about pansexual. Do you have a story about that?
Yes, in that, okay, we Sammy of early 2010s. I feel so old when I talk about that. I would have to say around 2012, 13. It was then that I was really starting to get really into the online queer community. At that point, I'd been a proud ally. I had a friend who I've had since middle school who came out as gay. So I got really boosted into that with his, learning about him, learning about more of it as I grew up. Um, and I started looking at different terms and such. Now, growing up with basic internet dial up and book sources and being in the South, I only knew gay, lesbian, and bisexual. And then I came across pansexual, which, again, for those who, you had another guest who was.
Yesterday's, yep.
I've heard it as regardless of gender or attraction to all genders. And again, it's more word semantics at that point. But it really appealed to me because, again, I was learning that there's so many more identities than just male, female. And I felt I could be attracted to anyone regardless of that. So I proudly took that term, and I made bead art. I got a hoodie with the pansexual flag. I loved it. And then came about 2017 where I had to sit and really think about it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want sex. I'm not interested in sex. That's kind of the big part of the sexual part of it. And like I started asking around to see if like how others felt, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess media being so filled with sex is there's a reason for it. So it was actually really hard for me to lose that part of my identity because I loved it. But I also wanted to be honest with myself, and so I started using the asexual term for myself. Now, I don't know if any of your guests have mentioned this before. In some parts of the community, but also really asexual and aromantic community, there's something called the split attraction model, which goes from not just, oh, hey, I'm bisexual. You can be sexual, but also romantic, and I don't always have to align. So, for example, you could have someone who's asexual, but attracted romantically to women.
Okay.
Meaning they want romantic relationships with women, but don't want the sex involved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Some people don't use this model. A lot of people in the asexual community do, because you find a lot of people, like me, for instance, I currently identify as asexual pan-romantic because I still think I can love somebody regardless of, but the sex part is just, I'm neutral to it. I'm happy to promote sex, healthy sex, in this repressed society of ours, happy sexual expression and such for everyone. I just don't personally want it.
I like that you said that though, because um, now this is sort of religious kind of thing, but there's not one religion in this world that doesn't promote love.
Yeah,
You know, now some of it's more like strict, like you can only love people that are in your religion, but love everyone
yeah,
and treat them nice, blah blah. But there's something about humanity that, from our most basic, way before we evolved into what we are now, we've always told ourselves, hey, you need to respect each other and you can love everyone around you.
yeah,
Um, so I like that you said that, because that kind of fits with the model of what humanity has already built. Um, and a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people only, like, especially if they're religious, they only see their religion.
yeah,
My religion tells me to love people, but only to this extent.
yeah.
But I feel like if we're gonna be honest with humanity, you need to love everyone. Everyone can be your friend. Everyone, love. It's an overused term, but it's also not used correctly. If
And
that makes sense.
certain types are emphasized while others, because sexual and romantic love is everywhere. Then you've got parental love to the point it can be sometimes toxic of, oh, that's your mother, you have to love her, when things could be very troublesome there. But there's also love of friends, love of pets, love for doing for your community or your country, that a lot of people brush aside as not as important. In fact, I saw something to that, but like you were saying, trying to just love, again, that sounds cheesy like you said, but to love others and the different types of love.
Yeah, I feel I feel like everyone should have some sort of love. There was a book I read. It's a very biased book. It's a very Christian book, but it's called The World's Greatest Salesman.
Okay.
Um, if you take out the religion of the book and you read it as a story for someone who's trying to be a good human, be a good person, so you have to cut. It's not even major chunks of the book out. It's just minor chunks of the book out. But he goes through like every. You have to go through 10 steps, right?
Yeah.
And then each step is doing that specific step for 30 days. And one of the steps is every single person you meet in your mind, and you look them in the eye and you say, I love you. How can we make this better? How can we,
Right.
because he's trying to be the world's greatest salesman.
Yeah.
So if you instantly lock eyes with someone and in your mind you say, I love you, what's up? You instantly get a bond that is unconscious to both people, because both people are now relaxed.
Right.
One person's not, I don't know. It's been around for as long as humans have.
It's kind of, and funny enough, you mentioned it's Christian, and before I say this, I'm no expert in Buddhist philosophy, but it kind of reminds me in Buddhism, steps to achieve nirvana or just inner peace. One of them, I don't remember the exact term for it, but is to be conscious of how you're treating others, being kind to others. Like, you can be angry and you're about to lash out at someone completely outside of it because you're angry, but they don't know what's going on. They have their own stuff. So take a moment and just breathe and concentrate on that of, hey, let me just show this other person some kindness, kind of like you were saying with that.
I want to. There's a few Buddhists I want to interview. There's actually a temple down the road that I want to go to and talk to people.
Yeah.
I want to go to all the religions to have conversations with them all. But when I was in Massachusetts, I met a group of Buddhists, and they helped me so much. They taught me a chant for centering. It's not like some of their chants are religious chants.
Yeah.
But some of them are just to help self.
Of course.
Help you focus, help you realign your chakra or whatever.
Yeah.
And it works. It really does. At first, the first few times you do the chants, you feel really silly. You feel absolutely silly. Like, you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Like, because you're saying stuff out loud, but in your brain you're like, this seems silly.
Because it's outside of what we're used to doing.
Yeah. But I found after like a week of doing it, for a couple hours every, cut up every day.
Yeah.
I did get a sort of centering in my own brain. All my scattered thoughts all went in a row, and I was able to focus better. I actually got to start doing that again. That was really helpful. Now, have you ever faced any hardships because of you
Any of
being
the
in the
above.
queer community?
Depends on how you describe that, because physically, no, I haven't been assaulted or attacked, and I'm super grateful for that. But I also know I have certain just advantages of why that's to be. It's one is because I'm a rather plain person. I'm not very flamboyant, except for the jewelry I wear. I don't scream queer. Um, Another thing, and is that I'm white, and a lot of queer people of color get a lot of violence against them. So someone who's in the dominant culture, if you will. I hate to say that, but uh, not a lot of people approach me because of that. Um, Misgendering, though, on the emotional and mental side of it, constantly, especially no, for strangers, I get it. We're in a very binary society. It's going to happen, and I get that, and I'm glad people are working to change that, but it's going to be slow. But people who I've talked to and who should know better constantly misgendering me, using the wrong terms, and they'll laugh it off. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I was definitely one of those people at first. The main reason I laughed was because I felt like an idiot. Like
Right.
I was like laughing at myself, like you're fucking stupid. Like
And again, making mistakes that are not, I'm talking years to months to years of you should, you've had plenty of leeway, you've known me long enough. People I've known all my life that, yeah, I know there's a short adjustment period. Like, okay, they want to use a new term. They're like, oh no, I've known you for years, I can call you whatever. That really hurts.
I can understand that. The best thing I also found, because like I said, I also used the Sammy thing. That helped me a lot. But also when you're talking to someone about that person. So
Yeah.
if they're like, "Hey, where is Sammy?" If you can try to get in your brain when you're just talking to anyone, you'd be like, "Oh, I saw them," or "I saw Sammy."
Yeah.
If you're using it more than just in front of their face, and you're using it as everywhere, if you're
helping
referring
train
to,
yourself to.
Yeah.
I have one amazing coworker who every time if we're not super busy or something, and someone says something, oh, Sammy, da da da, wrong pronoun, she'll pause and go, they or them, and make it very clear that she's not trying to be aggressive, but she's correcting them in my stance because I'm sometimes not comfortable doing that. So I really appreciate when people will step up and do that for me. But like you were asking, I'm not out at home. Not for the fact that I think I would be kicked out or abused, but it's honestly the fear of either they won't understand or worse, they won't care, and they'll blatantly misgender me just to make fun of me at that point, and I can't take that mentally.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
And not everyone is. My last two interviews were anonymous,
Yeah.
as everyone knows, and that's respectable. I'm here to share a story, not to make my own story of someone else's story. I'm not here to shit on anyone or judge them. This is all you guys. You know what I mean? My own story gets told when I do my own solo stuff.
Yeah.
That's my story. You know what I mean? Now you said something about you're gonna come back to it. Was that the loving the country thing? Or?
It did involve the love thing, yeah. More queer community terminology and ideas, I guess, is originally termed by the aromantic community, which, like asexual is without the sexual attraction, aromantic is without the romantic attraction. People who are aromantic still love people, it's just not in that romantic way. Coined in that community is the queer platonic relationship, because in our culture, especially in US, there's a hierarchy of relationships, and you have friends, best friends, family. Oh, but you have a lover, you have a spouse, you have a partner. And those who don't experience sexual or romantic attractions, though not exclusive to them, they wanted a term so they would be able to describe themselves with the love they have for their partner or partners. And So the queer platonic relationship was kind of termed. Um, the difference is that you may not feel sexual and or romantic attraction to somebody, but it still holds that same weight as, like, say, a spouse does,
Okay.
and how as sincere and devoted that love is. Now, that's not saying it's exclusive. You can't have any more friends or you can't have other queer platonic relationships. It's just giving you that term for yourself that that separate between, oh, this is my friend versus this is my queer platonic partner.
Okay.
And within
it just symbolizes something closer.
Exactly.
That's all it symbolizes.
Because people don't take seriously when you say, "Oh, my best friend." You're like, okay, whatever. Like, no, it's a little more.
There was a, Jay and Silent Bob.
Say that again.
Jay and Silent Bob.
Don't think I.
No. Do you know who Kevin Smith is?
Yes.
How you doing, sir?
Hey.
Kevin Smith has a bunch of movies that he did that were not big like Avengers. You know what I mean? Like he directed one of the Avengers or some of the Marvel movies or something.
Okay.
He has, Mallrats and he has Clerks and stuff like that. These are smaller movies he has. And then he has Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Okay.
He plays Silent Bob. Kevin Smith plays Silent Bob and his friend Jason Mewes. I actually just gave someone else something. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry, man.
Sorry.
I hate that because I always want to help as many people as I can.
Exactly. I don't carry cash and I always feel bad because of that situation.
Oh, that kills me. Like, someone else hadn't just come up and asked for money.
Yeah.
I would have given him money. But yeah, Jay, it's Kevin Smith and his friend Jason Mewes.
Okay.
And in one of the movies, Jay, Kevin Smith plays Silent Bob, so he doesn't talk.
Okay.
Like, just is a silent.
Yeah.
They're like best friends. And one time he says, "This is my hetero life mate, Silent Bob."
Yeah.
And I was like, "That is amazing."
I've also heard that term, hetero life partner. Yeah.
Yeah. It might have been hetero life partner.
Something like that. Yeah.
That was awesome, and that actually made a big thing in the community that watched the like underground. But excuse me. And so I'm happy you brought that up because that's kind of that's how I can relate to it is through those movies. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. A platonic,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I know it's silly and it's kind of different.
Well,
but
I've learned
I can relate.
I've learned the term, and it might even come from that source, to be honest. There's a website that talks about tropes in TVs and media and such. And before I came out as all my lovely identities, but queer, let's say, and spoiler, my partner came out as pansexual, we would say we were hetero life partners because we were both allies, we were both straight, but we were that close, and that was back in like 2012. So about last year, we started asking each other because, like, I would bring her up in conversation. People would be like, "Oh, her," and I'm like, "Yes," because I have so much more affection for her than other people, and I'm always talking about her. And one day, we just kind of sat down and we're like, "Hey, so what do we want to do?" Because we're not interested in dating, or at least in the romantic or sexual sense. But we knew at this term that we're like, do we want to try using that for us? Would you be comfortable with that? In fact, before the interview, I asked her, am I okay discussing that? And she said, sure, of course.
Cool.
So.
Well, then tell her thank you from me and the nerds.
Of course.
That's awesome.
Love you, Allie.
Me too. I don't think we've ever met, but you're the best. Sammy loves you. I love you.
No.
Now, was there another point that you wanted to come back to? I can't keep coming back to points. I'm just trying to keep them track of my
verbal bookmarks. I had mentioned the mythical transgender story that I guess a lot of us are supposed to have, like when you first realize you're trans.
Oh, okay.
If you wanted me to discuss that.
Yeah, there's so I've asked this to the other two so far, and in my assumption, because like there's always the stuff going around like, oh, this turned you gay or this turned you gay. In my opinion, humans are different. Humans, every person is unique in their own way, and I feel like let me rephrase that. I feel like you can make someone feel a certain way, by manipulating their brain, because the brain can be manipulated. That's
Yeah.
proven through science. You can change the chemistry in someone's mind with drugs, or
Yeah.
or Pavlov and his experiments. You can sit there,
Condition and
condition someone to feel that way. But I feel like 99.9 with a line over the 9 infinitely percent of people in the queer community, this is just who they are. This is
Yeah.
how they were born. Someone didn't force them to be gay, or it wasn't that type of music, or
it wasn't like,
it's just
oh, I
them.
want to be trendy, I want to do this. It's something they had to sincerely come up with, like for their own feelings and their own experiences.
So is that your
So
or
I
do
have.
you feel like something influenced you?
Oh no. But I have this, if you will, eureka moment. This was winter of 2014. I'd gotten a very bad infection. I don't even know to this day what it was, but I was bedridden for a couple months. Took me out of work. I couldn't eat. I had a bunch of fever dreams. It was awful. Like at some points, I thought I was going to die just from how bad I felt. And one of those nights, just laying in the dark, I'd been doing. This was again about 2014, so I was looking more into the queer community, the labels that are now well known.
But you were already pansexual at this point from 2012.
Yes, at this point I had been identifying as pansexual.
Okay.
So I was just doing research on the different genders that at that point were not super familiar, like non-binary and such.
Okay.
And so I had that in my mind, but I also again was like fever dream. I was really tired and anxious, and just in the dark, being sick. I don't want to use the word spiritual, but you have those moments where like you're just kind of out there and your thoughts are free and unrestricted and whatnot. And I was laying there hurting completely, couldn't move, and I was focused on my body, and I was like, man, wouldn't I love it to just be completely neutral, blank, like nothing. And I realized at that point that's something I'd felt throughout my life. So there was that part. And then I think just before or just after that, I was doing the research on the computer when I felt a tiny bit better to sit up. And I went to one of the gender wikis, and agender came up. And I was reading it, like this lack of gender. And it was like, that's me.
I was feeling. I get you. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. So if anyone else feels that way, and you haven't done any research, but you just feel something, any kind of similar to what Sammy was just explaining, now you have something you can look up, maybe that applies to you. I suggest everyone always do more research.
Yeah.
If you're interested, if you're questioning, if you just don't want to be rude and you're straight, like if you just want to be a person who is okay with other people, just being people, always look something up if you have a question, or find someone, don't be rude or anything, and just ask questions. It's okay to ask questions.
Now, like, not every queer person wants to be the encyclopedia, the Google search of, hey, tell me everything about this. But if you've got the opportunity, you're comfortable, they're especially comfortable, and you want to ask a few questions, be polite, be courteous, be like, hey, I don't understand this concept quite. Can you explain that to me? Or what's your feelings on this? Now, don't be rude and be like, oh, so you're trans, what's in your pants? Or, oh, you're a lesbian, what actually do you do during sex? Obviously, be a little more respectful.
Yeah, that's very childish. That actually came up yesterday with the pansexual I was talking to. They and I still can't fully wrap my brain around this, but grown adult men were making fun of them because they were pansexual, saying, "Oh, you must love pants." Like
that's oh my god, yep.
Like as an insult, not even like as a joke.
I know.
Like because when I first read that they said, when I asked them, they said that to me, I was like, look, let's be honest. If one of my kids came out, I'd be like, well, if you're pansexual, I got some like I'd make a dad joke just to poke fun, or if they're my friend, I would poke fun.
Exactly.
But not to be rude. Like I would just make the stupid joke. I can't believe people are using this as like a real ass insult.
Yeah, they are.
Like, you just love pants. Like, I can't even imagine someone saying that seriously.
Thankfully, the pan community is pretty well humored. And, like, if we have Pride merchandise or Pride art and such, you usually see a frying pan in there.
That's awesome.
Because
I gotta give me one of them shirts.
We can take a joke like that. But, yeah, like you said, like, I can't believe they insult them. Like, yeah, I know. The same thing with asexuals. Oh, does that mean you reproduce asexually? Hurt.
Oh, God.
Uh-huh.
Like vegetables and...
yeah.
What's that? There's a worms. Aren't worms asexual?
I think so. Yeah.
Certain species, at least. I just had a great idea for merch for pansexual. Do you know of PUBG?
Yeah.
PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. Get that logo, but instead of saying PUBG, make it say pansexual. And then the biggest thing people use in that game are frying pans because it's like the most gag weapon.
Yeah.
You can just like hit people with a frying pan. Like,
I would not be surprised if someone's already got that, but that's amazing.
Oh man, I gotta look it up. Hey, merch coming. If no one has it, and I got the money. All right. So, I think is there any major points you would like to discuss? Anything you want to tell people, maybe in the closet, people who are not comfortable yet, or people who are open about it, or anything that you want to express to anyone out there?
First of all, to everyone, cishet, queer, whatever, if you're comfortable, if you have the means, do your research. I am huge for looking up history, especially because the younger generations, we take for granted our right to even be public, to have these attractions or these identities. But a lot of people, especially in the U.S., that's where my specialty is, during the 1900s and 20th century, were arrested, were killed, lost jobs, lost families, countless tragedy because they were trying to be who they are. A lot of great people fighting for our rights that we have today. We feel like we're getting a bit of a backlash, but that's nothing compared to teachers that lost positions in the universities, people that were kicked out of the military, lost everything because of who they are. So if you can, do your history. If you're not in the U.S., of course, outside of where you can, as long as you're safe, of course. That's also a really sad thing you have to consider is be yourself, but also be very safe, especially if you got a hostile family or community.
Be aware of your surroundings.
Exactly.
Like, I know, especially in the Middle East, if you come out as gay, I know there's very much potential to be murdered.
Exactly.
By your entire country. Like, your entire country will revolt.
That you have to flee your homeland, basically, at that point.
Yeah, if they don't kidnap you. Which is crazy to me. That's insane.
Absolutely. If you have the access, online communities, I know there's a lot of trolls. I know there's a lot of people who are just jerks online.
Yep.
But there's a lot of great communities. I know there's going to be some chuckles. Tumblr.com is where a lot of people first get the ideas of where a lot of these identities come from.
They changed Tumblr, I think, over the last few months.
There's been little changes, but still you can find a lot of good community on there. There's some discourse as well, but also some good communities. Reddit, of course. There's independent websites, like there's one for asexuals. I've heard that the aromantic community is trying to mobilize to make, I think it's aromantic carnival, to kind of get a lot of their movement moving as well. Facebook, I'm a part of several different queer communities for non-binary, for asexual. On the Discord chat app, I'm part of a wonderful agender community. So always try to reach out when you can. If you've got people in real life who are your allies or different parts of the community, reach out to them. Even if you talk about things other than queer topics, that having that sense of companionship is really helpful. If you see someone in need, even if you can't be super explicit because they're in the closet or something, just try to be there for them. Again, even as just a decent person. Like kind of the themes we've been talking about all along. Just try to be a good person. Try to learn if you don't understand things.
Yeah. No, I don't want to sit here and say, like, now the Muslim community is all bad. I've met good Muslims. I'm just saying in certain areas that they do that.
No,
that is a real thing. It's not just like that's a bad religion. Now, I'm not Muslim, and I don't specifically have any Muslim friends, to the best of my knowledge, to help me get a better understanding. I know a lot of people convert. I know it's very closely related to Judaism and Christians, which I will probably get backlash from both Judaism and Christians.
They come from the same root. That's just a historical fact.
Just rooting, they're very similar. Now, I have my own opinions on that, but that's not my place to discuss. Like, I'm not saying that all Muslims are bad.
No,
that's all
right.
I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Go ahead. From my take on it, I'm not extensively researched into Islam or Muslim. I took a college course a couple of years back. I've done my own personal research, and of course, online there are plenty of smaller pro queer Muslim communities. A shout out to my queer Muslim brothers, sisters, siblings, especially with the backlash you all get. Not only from years ago, there was the Pulse shooting. There's any terrorist attack, you get that on that side, but then you also get the anti-queer rhetoric when you yourself have both those identities. So you guys got my full support.
I just know it takes a lot to be in the queer community in that religion.
Yes,
And
definitely.
so they're
Especially
like,
if you live somewhere where it's highly illegal.
Yes. Okay. Just to get that understanding out.
Yeah.
And we're also not saying like if you're straight you're a bad person,
Oh,
or
no.
if you're gay and you don't understand you're a bad person. We're just saying just try to be understanding and be kind.
Exactly.
If possible, do the research. That'd be great. Help more people understand, and help people understand that, like people like Sammy, is just a person. Sammy's not a freak or a human blood, human skin, human hair, like human. Like I don't know, it's not a lizard. You know what I mean? Like freaking what's his name? Who made Facebook?
Oh my god.
Good old Zuck,
Oh my god.
Sammy's not a Zuck, you know what I mean? The queer community are just people.
Exactly.
And I feel like you need to treat all people correctly.
Exactly.
Know about them, don't know about them. I don't care if you want to be lazy and don't want to look anything up. Just treat people kindly. Don't sit here and be an 8-year-old in freaking 3rd grade and like.
If you're ignorant of something, either admit it and go about doing your research, or just kindly pass yourself away from the topic. But don't force yourself somewhere you're not, and just treat people with respect.
And don't shit on people. You know what I mean? And thank you again, Sammy,
Of
and
course.
thank you guys for watching. Happy Pride Month, of course.
Happy Pride, guys.
And I am so happy I got to do this interview. Like I said, Sammy is one of the greatest people I've met. I don't know one person. I can't think of not one single person that knows you that I know that dislikes you. I've never met one person to ever badmouth Sammy.
Oh,
ever. Even like bigot people that I worked with at the store that we worked at together only had good things to say about Sammy. Sammy works hard. Sammy is super polite, super kind. That's because Sammy's a good person. It doesn't matter how they identify. It doesn't matter because it's a person. And that's the theme that I want to get across with all my interviews for this month at least. Or if I ever do interviews outside of this month with a queer person. They are still people. And with all my interviews, I want people to understand no matter what bad thing has happened to someone, or no matter how they identify themselves, or no matter what is happening, they are still human and a person.
Yeah.
And they're awesome.
Again, as someone who prides himself on learning and doing the research on the histories and such, I've been fascinated in watching his other interviews because I want to know their stories. It's one thing to look at a broad history, it's another to know how someone has to the day-to-day lives.
It's true. All right, you guys. It was nice talking with y'all. It was nice talking with you, Sammy.
Thank you for having me.
I had fun eating and doing this interview. I actually learned some stuff, so that was cool.
Awesome.
I always enjoy talking to you. I always learn something new that my dumb self never knew. So that's cool. And I got a better understanding of who you are as a person. Because I don't think we've had a lot of discussions about the queer community.
Yeah.
Especially when, like I said, I was very closed-minded before I even met Sammy. Like, because I only knew who I knew. I didn't know any asexuals. I didn't know any pansexuals. I knew bisexuals and I knew gay. That's all I knew. I knew there were lesbians out there, but that's it. I didn't know. And so me and Sammy has had talks, but not anything like this. So that was really cool. Thank you again. You guys, don't forget, be kind to others. If you want, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Give us a like. Give us some comments down below. Maybe we did our research wrong on something.
Start a conversation. I'd be glad to answer questions. I'm sure he absolutely would. want a different perspective, go right ahead, ask us.
Anything, just anything you want to say. Now, if you're gonna be a bigot, I'm probably just gonna shit on you or delete your
Be
comment.
respectful, of course.
I mean, yeah, because like eventually, if this ever does blow up, people are gonna.
It's YouTube.
It's the internet in general.
Yeah.
So even if I don't get around to deleting comments, if it becomes a thing where it's just hate, I will probably get bored one day and just find you and pick apart everything that I can find about your life and how terrible of a person you are if you want to shit on anyone else. You know what I mean? So be prepared for that. And Sammy will answer any questions. Sammy is very, very open to talking, from my understanding. And I'm sure more people on my side who agree with me and who got my back will also shit on you if you do some hate stuff too. So have fun. Love you guys. Thank you so much. I think one of my videos actually reached 100 views, so that's awesome.
Excellent.
I thank you for the support. And I think we almost have 40 subscribers, so
hey,
you guys are dope. Love you guys. I'll see you. Sam can be seen. Love you guys. See you later.